Welcome to our new video. If you love tales of the Wild West, brutal, lawless, and unforgiving, then hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this episode with a fellow history buff. The Old West wasn't just dangerous. It was a battlefield where survival was never guaranteed. Some men met their end in bloody ambushes, their last moments swallowed by gunfire and war cries. Others faced massacres so brutal that their names were lost to history. Tonight, we're diving into some of the most horrifying ways to die in the Wild West, from soldiers lured into deadly traps to entire camps slaughtered under the cover of darkness. These aren't just stories. They are the violent echoes of a past written in blood. Let's begin with one of the most infamous battles in frontier history, the Fetterman Massacre. 1. The Fetterman Massacre, 1866, 81, men against an army. They thought they were hunting warriors. Instead, they walked into their own graves. Under the cold gray sky of December 21st, 1866, the sharp call of a bugle echoed over Powder River country. 81 men marched out of Fort Phil Kearny, led by Captain William Fetterman, a man who boasted that he could ride through the entire Sioux Nation with just 80 soldiers. He never made it back. The soldiers followed a lone native rider, a decoy. He paused, turned, and then the hills exploded. A war cry, piercing and wild, shattered the silence. Hundreds of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors surged over the ridges. Arrows screamed, rifles thundered, the air filled with smoke and death. The soldiers fought in sheer panic. Bayonets clashed against tomahawks in brutal, close-quarter combat. Limbs were hacked, skulls split, blood turned the snow red. The last survivor, Adolph Metzger, a bugler, stood alone, his rifle gone, his death moments away. A warrior lunged, but Metzger fought back with his bugle, using the brass instrument as a club. Then, instead of fleeing, he lifted it to his lips and played one final note of defiance. By the end, every single soldier was dead. Their bodies were stripped, scalped, and mutilated beyond recognition, except for Metzger. His corpse was left untouched, his bugle placed beside him, a chilling gesture of respect on a battlefield soaked in blood. 2. A perfect slaughter, the Klamath Lake Massacre, 1846. The trappers were asleep. The arrows struck before they could even reach for their guns. The night was silent, the still waters of Klamath Lake reflecting the stars. Then, out of the darkness, a dull thump. Basil Lajeunesse fell first. His skull split open. Indians! Before the trappers could react, arrows tore through the camp. Screams filled the night as men tried to grab their rifles, only to be cut down where they stood. Tomahawks flashed. Bodies crumpled. The ground turned wet with blood. By morning, only a few survived. The trappers, consumed by rage and grief, struck back. At dawn, they stormed a nearby Klamath village. Fire roared through the settlement as men, women, and children fled into the woods. Warriors fought back, but the damage had already been done. Whether the village had anything to do with the attack didn't matter anymore. The frontier demanded blood, and blood had been spilled. 3. Terror in the tall trees. The Umpqua Massacre, 1828. An axe went missing. A horse was stolen. By morning, 15 trappers were dead. Days before the massacre, tensions ran high. A missing axe had been found tied to a bound Umpqua chief, an insult that could not be ignored. At dawn, the river turned red. Trappers were caught off guard, half asleep in their camp. Arrows rained down, slicing through flesh and bone. Those who ran were hunted down and hacked apart. Within minutes, it was over. Only Moses Black and a few others escaped, dragging their wounded bodies through the wilderness, starving and half dead. The Umpqua Massacre became a brutal reminder. In the Wild West, one wrong move could erase you from history. 4. The Black Bean Incident, 1843. The game of death. Imagine pulling a rock from a jar. If it's black, you die. Captured by Mexican forces, 176 Texan prisoners were given a horrifying choice. A jar, 176 beans inside, 159 white, 17 black. If you pulled a black bean, you were executed. One by one, men reached in. Major James Cock drew first. A black bean, he smirked. Boys, I never failed to draw a prize. One by one, the condemned wrote their last words, then stood blindfolded as Mexican soldiers raised their rifles. The first volley tore them apart, bodies crumpled. The second volley finished the job. Some tried to fake death. One man, Shepard, lay still, but a soldier noticed his shallow breaths. He was dragged up, his jaw shattered by a bullet, then executed point blank. 5. The Tonquin Explosion, 1811. A sailor's fiery revenge. A massacre at sea. A final act of defiance. The Tonquin was ambushed at sea by Clayoquot warriors, who swarmed the deck, cutting down the crew in a whirlwind of blood and bone. But one man survived. James Lewis, bleeding out, crawled below deck. He reached a 9,000-pound cache of gunpowder. With his final breath, he struck the fuse. The ship exploded, killing Lewis, the remaining crew, and dozens of warriors in a fireball that lit up the night sky. 6. The Poison Bullet Ambush of 1836. Night fell over the Montana wilderness as Isaac P. arose, shivered by the fire. At dawn, he spoke of a dream, a grizzly walking like a man, reaching for a handshake. Joe Meek scoffed. You'll shake hands with Beelzebub before night. The Blackfoot were near. By midday, they moved on, trailing restless buffalo. Then the ambush. Muskets cracked. Rose reeled as a bullet shattered his elbow, bones splintering. A warrior grabbed his bridle, he lashed out with his whip and tore free. They ran, 30 miles, no rest. No time to bleed. At Bridger's camp, a Delaware medicine man confirmed their fear poison. Fever raged. Death loomed, but Rose endured. Relief was brief. A wounded scout staggered in. Blackfoot, 1,000 lodges, 4 miles south. No one spoke. No one slept. Out here, survival was only borrowed time. 7. Comanche murder, the terrifying death of Jedediah Smith. The Cimarron sun burned hot. Water was gone. Jedediah Smith rode south, desperate, waving down Comancheros for direction. They pointed him to Wagon Bed Spring, warning of Comanche ahead. 15 warriors appeared, no war bonnets, just cold intent. Smith smiled, signed peace. A rifle cracked. His shoulder snapped back. He fired, dropping a chief. The charge came fast. Lances plunged. Ribs shattered. The cries stopped. Smith lay still. The Comanche took their dead and rode off, leaving him for the buzzards. Just dust, blood, and a name lost to history. 8. The tragic death of Mr. Howell. The Missouri River shimmered as Howell loaded the keelboat. Withdrawn and defeated, he had once tried to flee only to be forced back at gunpoint. Now, there was no escape. Weeks later, he and Green rode to trap beaver along the Yellowstone. Blackfoot warriors struck. Green swam for cover, but Howell stayed in the saddle. Arrows struck his back. His rifle fell, his breath ragged. "I'm done for," he gasped. Green refused to leave him, dragging his horse to camp. Infection came fast. Howell suffered through the night, whispering his fiance's name, then fell silent. They buried him by the river, no sermon, no farewell, just another grave swallowed by the frontier. Trapped on the ice, the brutal death of Hugh Glass. The Yellowstone River lay frozen, ice cracking under a weak sun. Dust trudged alongside the Fort Cass trapping party, led by Hugh Glass. They barely had time to react when the brush erupted Arikara warriors, war cries splitting the cold. "The river," Glass barked. "No cover, no choice." They ran onto the ice, a brutal death trap. Arrows hissed. Leonard collapsed, chest pierced. Rose fell, skull shattered. Glass fired, defiant, before a lance drove into his ribs. He staggered, roaring, then steel flashed, and he crumpled, scalped before his body cooled. The Arikara left the dead sprawled across the ice. A frozen massacre. Days later, Crow allies buried them with wails of grief. Weeks on, Johnson Gardner's men found the killers, scalping them alive before burning them. Glass never sought vengeance, but the frontier delivered it in his stead, the macabre murders of the Bloody Benders. The prairies stretched empty as Colonel York rode into Osage Township. His trail led south to the Bender homestead. Inside, the air was thick with unease. Pa Bender glared. John Jr. laughed, hollow and strange. Ma watched in silence while Kate charmed, her smile hiding something darker. When York mentioned his missing brother, she only offered a place to stay. He left at dawn, suspicion gnawing. Days later, a search began, but the Benders had vanished. At their inn, a trapdoor revealed a blood-soaked pit. Outside, shallow graves. Dr. York lay among them, his skull crushed. Others followed families, travelers, their fates sealed in silence. Justice never came. The Benders faded into rumor, their crimes a legend, their house left to rot. But the memory of the pit remained a shadow that never left the prairie. The American frontier has swallowed countless names and countless fates. Some died and became legends. Others were nothing more than bones buried beneath the earth. But no matter who they were or how they met their end, they all became part of the great saga of the Wild West. A saga written in blood, in fire, and in stories that never truly end.